But more so than a tattooer, I know you all, like, when I hear you talk, you refer to yourself as an artist,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So I think that's the deeper meaning behind this conversation that we're going to have, because art is intertwined with life, with pain, with struggle, with all of the things that we talk about. So I think that's really what we're going to focus on today, just life in general, philosophy, art, and how it all intertwines. And so I think we'll just dive right into it. So for the people who don't know you, I know a lot of people know you as Jav the Tattooer, but like, who are you behind the scenes, really? You know what I mean?
I mean, behind the scenes, I mean, art plays a big role in my life. So behind the scenes, I'm just an artist, just some artist guy. It just so happens that my job is to create art on skin. But
Yeah.
just an artist, just a regular dude, father. You know what I mean, just a everyday dude, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's like, if people really knew you, I know how humble you are. That's why I say, like, just a regular dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's like all extra and everything.
It's
You know
a
what I mean?
surprise what the internet can do. They see that. They see like all those followers and they see the artwork and they're like, yeah, this guy has to be a douchebag or
Yeah,
has to
right.
be some rock star. Like
Yeah.
some of us are still normal out here. We just chilling, living everyday life.
In all honesty, I feel like it's probably like you said, you mentioned father. Like, that's probably more important than a lot of the stuff.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's all I really focus on nowadays. It's like, making sure like my kid has the best life, even better life than I had. And just developing a better character just from like raising a kid. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of start with is just background before we start diving deep into everything. I feel like, and we talked about this in the first time, a lot of people just see this artist, tattoos, like the whole character and everything like that, but they don't actually know what was going on and what led up to this, right? So like, we grew up in the same area, right?
Yeah,
And we know what it's like, but I feel like all these people who know who you are, like, from a like public relations standpoint, or whatever you would call it in business, like, they don't actually know who you are, what you've been through, what the real life is, like we do.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people have this like misunderstanding. Well, first, like I said, the internet confuses people. I don't know why. I don't really post on my tattoo page much about like who I am as an individual. I post my artwork, and that's pretty much it. But a lot of people base who I am off of how many followers I have. It's not the most in the world. It's like, I think like 13, 14,000.
Are you intentional about the mysterious persona?
Not really. I just a lot of people think I'm like trying to be like cool or like hidden
Yeah,
secret.
yeah.
It's just not. I don't like, it's not like when it comes to my work and my career and like my family, I don't like a big spotlight on that. You know what I mean? Like I just started like learning how to be a regular, like just a person now. I mean, I spend a lot of time only identifying as the art I created. So I just recently started to like, just think about myself and like what I like in life and like how I want to portray myself or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think the internet is really confusing people. But also, I on the outside of that, people see me who I am today and think that like I've always been like this. But it was a lot of stepping stones to get here. I mean, there's a lot of things that went wrong. You know what I mean? Like, my background isn't like suburban, like mom and dad. You know what I mean? Like, everyone thinks that like, oh, mom, dad, help me pursue my tattoo
You don't
career.
grow
And
up in the
like,
suburbs.
hey, son, yeah, definitely. Not making fun of anyone I did, but like people just think that I did. They think, like, oh, here, son, here's $10,000. Invest in your tattoo. Like, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? I don't like. I didn't come from that. I come from the projects. You know what I mean? Raised by my like dad mainly, but even like I left his care really early because we didn't see eye to eye. But my mom, I'm one of 5 kids. My mom ended up losing us to CYS. We all have different fathers. We all got separated in different locations, and I basically moved with my dad. My dad was he's a little bit different, but we just didn't see eye to eye. We like fought a lot, so I was really young. I was a teen. I ended up just stepping away from him and just like, you know what I mean, going out living on my own and staying here and there, and then like eventually running into my cousin who introduced me to tattooing.
So for people, because I want to dive into that too. Like, all of those little things we talk about, definitely not from like the suburbs, nothing like that, but it's like, I know you're not gonna just say it because of the humility, but it's the exact opposite of that. Like it, like at the extreme level.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like where we come from, the lifestyle that you lived, like growing up, like it wasn't no in between either. Like you say, it wasn't the suburbs, but it also wasn't in between. It was extremely.
Yeah,
it was a lot of adversity.
I'm talking projects, like the project. And I'm talking. We every now and then we would have a little apartment. We would, like, after a while we would lose it. You know what I mean? When I lived with my mom, and then motel room, hotel room, and then woman shelter, and then at one point completely homeless. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't your typical upbringing.
Yes, and then like we also talked about some of the, like, because we had the conversation, you know. Last conversation we had, we were talking about adversity and how it's a very attractive word in today's society, social media. A lot of people talking about, you know, business and this, that, and the third. Adversity. Face adversity. You should seek to love adversity and not to judge anyone's adversity, because, you know, that might be the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Like, there is a point in life where you are going to come face to face with hell, like real hell. Like, and a lot of people think, oh, me and my girl broke up, or, you know, oh, grandmama died, you know, like we're talking real adversity. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I want to touch on that, because I think for people who don't know you, I mean, I feel like that's a huge part of who you've become, the way that you think, the reason why you're successful, the reason why you have a certain outlook on life that gets you to great places. And then we're going to dive into that later. So I think it's good to talk about that now.
Like I said, I'm one of 5 kids. I'm the middle child. And
so 2 older, 2 younger?
2 older, 2 young. Older brother and sister, younger brother and sister. I'm right in the middle.
All different
fathers. We're all like a year apart, which is wild, but, you know, it is. It's wild. It's pretty wild. But, you know, like I said, I told you this before, but, like, you know, I barely ever go over, like, my story, because, like, I don't want to put blame on anyone, and I don't want to make it out because people hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I understand my mom was going through some stuff. I don't know what exactly that was. I never got to find out. I'm still, like, as an adult, trying to figure that out.
Because you have empathy. You
have to understand, like, people hurt people because they're hurt most of the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to understand that. Like, maybe she was going through something. Maybe she has some bad mental health. I'm not certain.
When were you able to think like that? Like, when were you able to start actually having empathy instead of hate?
Wow. That's a deep question. Because I spent most of my life upset. Like, I just mad at the world for a long time. I think this is a wild story, but I got into some trouble for fighting, and I was court ordered to go to anger management. I know it's wild, but I was court ordered to go to anger management. And
how long ago?
I can't remember. It had to be. How old am I? It had to be like, what, 10, 11 years ago.
And that was your last fight ever?
I wish it was, but it's not. But no, so, all right, yeah. I'd say, like, probably 11, maybe 10 years ago, I got into some trouble. And I had to go to anger management, and, like, I just started noticing how, like, being upset was destroying my life. You know what I mean? And this is when I was trying to move away from the projects and, like, really focus on my art and, like, really become, like, a functioning member of society. You know what I mean? So,
what, that stage where you said you was wearing button-up shirts?
Yeah, wearing button-up shirts. Just trying to be whatever. But that was, like, the introduction to this. I got in some trouble. Court order to anger management. Went there, and when I went there, I told myself I'd make, like, a conscious effort of, like, just trying to change and learn and be a better person.
Yes.
So with that, I was court ordered to do a patient intake and, like, go to therapy and stuff like that. So I started going. I started, like, going. It was a group, anger management. Everything was pretty cool. A lot of people were there for different reasons and stuff, and, like, you got to see, Like, you know what I mean, when it's not you, you can diagnose it. You know what I mean? If someone's across the room, like, freaking out about something that you think is simple, or, like, you know what I mean, you might have a solution to that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you're angry in traffic all the time. Like, hey, man, it's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, like, you know, like, we're all getting to it.
But you don't know the complexity.
Yeah, you don't know the complexity. But at the same time, you can get an idea of, like, you know, you can go, okay, I know why you're mad.
Yeah.
But you could also be like, I used to be mad about that too, and blah, blah, blah. So, like, it was really productive. Just to see people with their different issues. But I started doing that.
And you were still young at this time, pretty young.
I was probably like 18, 19 maybe. Yeah. So I started doing that. I started like going to that, like learning a little bit. And I remember going to, I think the biggest thing, because my anger got me in trouble a lot. I was like very like upset. And I just realized it was getting me nowhere. So I tattooed.
By the time, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
By the time of 19, did you lose anyone yet at this point?
Oh, 19, yeah. I've my cousin Trayvon, that was around that time. A few of my other cousins growing up, that was around. One of my most important cousins, Fat Sheep, Delonte. I lost him. That was like a brother to me, real close. At that time, my grandmother had passed, and a few people on my mom's side of the family had committed suicide. Suicide in my family is like very common. Yes. Like everyone's like has addictive personalities. They get too involved. Like they get too involved with like some sort of substance because they're stuck in that crab in a barrel. Everybody in Newcastle is stuck, and they get like bummed out. And it's all generational. Yeah. No one really helps anyone else. So next generation is born into no money and nothing. So like they just start drinking a lot, and then they get depressed, and then next thing you know, either they overdose or they just end up like killing themselves. Like, you know what I mean? So it's very common. So I lost a lot of people. So,
but no, like at that point, no siblings yet.
No siblings. No, I lost my brother to suicide was at 2018, and I also lost my sister to some like freak accident at like 2019. Both like pretty much back to back. So my brother was just going through it, you know what I mean? He ended up getting chased by the police as he was going through that moment in his life, and he ran into the woods and shot himself. That didn't really sit well with me. It really kind of like fucked me up a little bit. Yeah. So that just, you know what I mean? That's neither here or there. Like, you know what I mean? It kind of changed direction in my life at one point. But that just goes into a whole nother conversation about like my child. Mm-hmm. But as far as like the whole like the whole like thinking in a very like logical, more empathetic way, I went to anger management. I was tattooing a client, and this was in a shop, George Salzano shop, and I was tattooing a client, and I tattooed the quote, "No mud, no lotus." And I was just very curious about that, and I asked her, and she like read into a lot of Buddhism and stuff like that,
like Eastern philosophy.
Yeah,
and
definitely. Mm-hmm. And there's a book, and she's like, "This is from a book. It's called You Are Here." I wish I could pronounce the author's name, but I really can't. It's like THICH, but it's pronounced a certain way. But
what's the name of the title again?
You Are Here.
Okay.
It's about living in the present moment and understanding the present moment. Mm-hmm. So I was like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, what I got to lose? I've been angry for a long time. So I start reading into that. She said she treated it like her Bible. So I started reading into that, and I like the ideals from it, and I like the morality of that whole culture. So I start reading into that, and it start teaching you to understand compassion and how everyone's just basically suffering, and everyone's trying their best not to.
Like life is suffering.
Yeah, that's all it is. Life is just a gang of suffering. Everyone's suffering in their own way. Some people are smart enough to understand that they're suffering, so they just do what they can to not suffer. And some people aren't like really like knowledgeable about suffering, so they think it's transferable. So they'll try to hurt you to like show you that they're hurt, or they think they think pain is transferable. So they're like, if I can get this anger off me onto that person, it's whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then we were a couple weeks ago, and we were talking. I explained to you that thought I had about like one of the young kids at the office, in my office. They asked me, they said like, how would you define happiness, right? And I would like that questions like that just kind of throw me off. Kind of like how when someone asks you like, how would you define art?
Yeah.
And my answer after really thinking about it, because I wanted to like mentor this young kid, I wanted to come up with an answer. I was very intentional about it. I told him I think that happiness, the way I would define it, is finding a way to fall in love with suffering, because that's all life really is. And to fall in love with suffering, I feel like the only way you could do that is if you have some far off in the distance, like vision and purpose, like a sort of final destination that you want to arrive at in terms of what you want to attain and the impact you want to have in life. And that vision and purpose be worthy of all of the suffering that you're going to take on in life.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's a really good concept. So you were reading this book that this girl told you to read.
Yeah. And I never, like, coming from the community I'm from, no one really talks about compassion, you know what I mean? Like, it's all survival.
At all, yeah.
I actually was watching an interview with Nipsey Hussle, and he's talking about survival mode. And he said, you really can't think logically when you're in survival mode. It's just all about survival. Like, you're not worried about who your feelings you're hurting or what you're trying to, or like who's bothered by you, or like how, like the burnt path you left behind you. Like, all you worried about is like your ribs is touching. So
and that's what led you to art, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Survival is what kind of led you to art.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. So,
Well, other than the fact that you had like a natural inclination towards it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's basically what happened. I read into it, I started understanding that, and I went from there. But as far as like getting involved with art, yeah, it's just like it was. You know what I mean? Like it where I'm from, like it's just like pretty dark. Like everyone's perspective is kind of like we're here, we're stuck here.
Yeah.
And I could think a little bit past that. So like, you know what I mean? I was just like, all right, we're here, but there's
What do you
way.
think was different about you? Because like what you're, I don't even think it's just like your specific surroundings. I think it's Newcastle as a whole.
Oh, definitely.
Where they have that mindset.
Yeah, everyone has that mindset, but like outside of the projects, it was like my family owned a restaurant. That's what we're going to do forever. Yeah, I mean, so
you're in all honesty, if you really look at it like from a long-term perspective, it's almost like, and you're never going to be thankful for, you know, like you never want to say like, oh, thank God that this happened to my brother.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But like in reality, it's like a lot of those people that had it average, right? They're going to have it average for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
you start out at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, and that gives you that like motivation to go all the way higher than a lot of people who will just stay even on an even path.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. I always tell people this, like it's just like if you don't have fire under your ass, like you know what I mean, you might just sit still forever. You know what I mean? But like you're just kind of almost forced to move, because if not, you're gonna get burnt. That's just how it goes.
It's interesting because when you look at these movies, like with the hero, like the hero story, all of them started out with the absolute worst adversity that you could think that any human can have. Yeah, like at the beginning of their origin story. You know what I mean?
And they killed Batman's mom and dad at the same time.
Spider-Man, Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone had massive adversity at the beginning. Yeah. So when I teach when I get a young kid in who has a story like that, I'm like, man, like you should actually. And of course, they're not going to understand this at that point. They're young. Yeah. But it's like one day you're going to look back and be thankful that you got to face the most of the adversity early on.
Yeah, definitely. It's tricky, though, because like some people face that and they just crumble. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like it's just has to have the right equation, which is wild because it makes me think like what it was so different about my situation. Yeah. I mean, I was just able to like think. I just think most of it was I didn't have nothing to lose. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I didn't do nothing, I'd have just been stuck. If I would have tried and failed, oh well. Like I didn't really have nothing to my name.
There was like not a risk. It wasn't a risk.
No risk. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so like it was just like I can sit here and have a hard time, or I can have a hard time working and have some stuff in the end. Because that's how most people are.
It's almost like anything was better.
Pick your difficulty. You know what I mean? Like you can either be poor and just sit around all day and just be sad, or you can like be stressed out every fucking day from working. Yeah. And so like I just picked that that path.
So what do you think, I know you had a natural inclination towards art.
Yeah.
Do you think that was just because of the way that you were wired mentally?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know what, it's just that curiosity. And then my circumstances, not having anything sparks like a creative mind. Like if you don't have a toy, you'll pick up a box and pretend it's a toy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it like not having nothing will strengthen like your creative like mentality.
So when did you first realize that you had that?
That I had the thought process or like the capabilities to create art?
Both.
Um,
Start with like the mindset.
The mindset. I'm not really certain. I've been thinking like that since I was very, very young. I just was a very, very, very curious dude. I don't know what it was about, but I was just constantly thinking too far into stuff. I don't know. I was a middle child, so honestly, I would just, sit around and just, sit and spend most of my time alone.
Yeah.
My older brother protected my little brother because my sister was insane. So she beat up my little brothers and my older brother would protect them. And then my younger sister was protected by my older sister because my older brother used to harass her. And then I was just in the middle. Like I just chilling. I was just really very quiet.
So like were you more of an introvert?
Yeah, I was definitely an introvert. I don't know. I lived in my own head. And I think that's where a lot of creativity come from too. Like in the circumstances I was in, I really had to like think like if you're in a bad situation, you just got to escape it by just like creating your own reality in your head.
Were you very observant?
Yeah, I was an introvert. I spent a lot of time like alone. You know what I mean? Just hanging out by myself. My older brother protecting my younger brother, my older sister protected my little sister because they would constantly fight, and I was just in the middle, and I think it was that way, and I was always in my head. I was always like overthinking everything, and it was mainly because my mom was like drinking a lot, and like I said, I don't know why, never figured out to this day, but she was drinking, and she also had poor like mental health. So,
and I think that a lot of people will be surprised, not because of you, just people in general. Like this ain't a normal thing. Because of everything that you've witnessed. Yeah. Never in your life have you ever drank or smoked one time.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me, but I'm not bothered by people that drink or smoke. It's just like I don't feel like it's necessary. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like especially watching my family abuse it, I feel like I would have that abusive personality.
So does a part of it come out of fear that you could have that addictive personality?
Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like I go through the same thing as everyone else does. It just so happens that like my drug of choice is art. Yeah. You know what I mean? I get bummed out, I go to work. You know what I mean? Like I get stressed out, I'm at work, right? And I overwork.
So when, of course, you've always had the artist mindset, like the artist mind, the deep fundamental thinking, like first principles thinking, trying to find the deepest truth about everything, over analyzing everything. When did you actually start putting it into practice to be able to be like, oh, okay, wait a minute, hold up, I could do a little bit of this, or I actually enjoy what I'm doing right now?
You mean like art, or you mean like tattooing?
Art in general.
Oh, I've been drawing since I can remember.
And you was always nice with it?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, like to me, you know what I mean? Like when I started drawing, I feel like it was above average for a kid. You know what I mean? Like because I do it a lot. When I first started, I mean, obviously it wasn't that great, but like, luckily I had a grandmother that would be like, oh, this is phenomenal. Like my mom's mom, when I was coming up, she was just super stoked about my artwork. So she just like, I remember I drew a dandelion on a bus when I was really young. And I was like, wow, I feel like this is great. Yeah. You know what I mean? So brought it in the house, showed my grandma. She's like, this is the best dandelion I've seen. I'm like, yep, I'm an artist. Yeah. So from then on, I just spent a lot of time just like practicing art and just like draw on time. My grandmother would sit us down and draw like different things and like have us like draw like the same things she drew or whatever. And from there, I just started getting more and more involved and more curious about it. And like I said before, like a lot of people think that my talent's like art, but it's not. Like I'm just one of those people that just gets obsessive with stuff. And I think I took a family curse and turned it into something, because a lot of people are obsessive about the wrong things. So like someone that like start drinking and they get obsessed with drinking, or like they'll get addicted to drinking. Like where I'm like addicted to like progress, or like addicted to like just anything I get involved with.
Well, I think it was a good conversation that we had where we talked about anything that takes the majority of your attention turns into your God. Like we were talking a little bit about religion, and it's like if you don't find your God, then your pleasures or your desires or whatever you're using to escape your reality or distract yourself from the hell that you live in, that's what's gonna become your God.
For sure. Yeah.
So you were able to be like, well. And I'm not comparing like art to God or anything like that. Yeah, we're just using that as
figuratively.
Like like because that's where most of your attention is on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for you, so you were naturally gifted, and then you also worked extremely hard.
Oh, that's pretty much it.
When it comes to art, and go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that because like all of us were given the same introduction to art. And all my siblings we're very similar, all of us.
Because Shaquem did tattooing
not in the state like who we are as a person, but like as far as like our artistic ability, we were all very similar, and like our creative minds and stuff like that. So basically, like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well this is a gift. I'm like, it's not, because we all had the same thing. I just decided to like really like focus in and focus in on that, and like I started doing that more than I did anything else, where my siblings were like hanging out, you know what I mean, gone, like they made friends and like found other interests. I was just like stuck on like just art. So it just shows that like you like it's not really, you're not like LeBron James wasn't like born dunking basketballs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he was born with the genetic, like the size to be a basketball player. Well, but he worked hard to get where he was.
And like that's one thing that I always tell people, because everyone loves the saying, you know, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But what I like better is, so hard work beats talent, yes. Yeah. But hard work plus talent beats hard work. Yeah. Right. So how do you get the hard work and the talent? Well, everyone's talented at something. Right. You just got to find what it is, and normally it leads back to your inclination. When you're super young, like I studied Albert Einstein, and his inclination, he remembers when his father gave him a compass, and when he would move, the compass would go to tell the direction. Yeah, definitely. And that was like he was like obsessed. He was insanely obsessed with how is that happening. Yeah. Like his inclination was to figure out, you know whatever that was, like the science behind that. Yeah. And Leonardo da Vinci, we talked about that, like him taking the paper out into the forest, like studying the littlest details of a butterfly's veins and all that crazy stuff. Yeah. You know, it's like if you could find what your inclinations are from a young child, and you could find a way to incorporate that into a purpose, well, then you're going to be incentivized to work hard on it because you love it. Mm-hmm. So now, there's the people with the talent and they're doing whatever they're doing, but they're not working hard. Then there's the people who are working hard, but they're working hard on something that they don't really love. Yeah. If I could have the talent and the hard work, that's where I feel like that's where you achieve
Definitely. Life. I mean, as far as your thought process, and obviously, like I was saying, like, if you're a sports player, like genetics, you know what I mean? Like you got your, you know what I mean? Like it's just like you're built for a certain thing. Yeah. It is what it is. But yeah, if that hard work is lacking, then you know what I mean? Like it can easily just be like scrapped and thrown away.
So for you, I know that a lot of the decision making as like growing from a young boy to a young man, and you had to grow fast. You had to turn to a man a lot faster than other people. Where did it go from art to like tattooing is the route?
I was taken away from my mom. All my siblings were separated. Some unfortunate event happened. We got taken away from my mom. We all got scattered everywhere. I stayed in Newcastle. I moved with my dad.
And then, so all your siblings, like, so Shaquem went to
his dad
in Baltimore
away. To his dad, and my little brother went to Youngstown. My two sisters got put in like foster care system.
Okay, where at?
Newcastle. I can't remember where else. They were bouncing around quite a bit, but mainly they were in Newcastle. But when they initially got taken away, I'm not certain where they went. I can't even like tell you. But we all got moved around a little bit, and I ended up going with my dad, staying in Newcastle. I want to say I lucked out, but I didn't. Yeah. Like if my dad lived in like California or something, maybe I'd be a lot better at what I do. But like, I had to,
maybe not.
Yeah, man, I got to stay in Newcastle where all my family and friends still were.
So were you still in Westview, or did you go somewhere else?
My grandmother lived on West Washington Street, so it was like she has a decent house. So she had like a nice, decent house, and my dad lived with her. Okay. So my dad was just trying to like figure himself out and like figure out what he wanted to do with his life.
You didn't know your dad.
No, he's been around, but like my mom would constantly like tell me my dad was someone different. So like throughout my childhood, I remember getting beat because I wouldn't call this man my dad. Not my dad now, but like some dude she thought was my dad. I remember he beat me because of that, and I remember this other dude. She was like, "This is your father, and if you call him your father, he'll buy you shoes for school." And I was like, "I'm not like what? I'm not doing that." Like I was a kid, but I still was like, "Huh? You just told me this guy was my dad." So then the guy ended up buying my siblings sneakers for school and not me. I mean, so I went through hell trying to figure out who my dad was.
So all your siblings called him dad.
No, he just wanted me to. You know what I mean? Because regardless, he was with my mom, so he's like, whatever, I'll take care of these kids. But like then he was just like upset that like I thought someone else was my dad, but
so why do you think he singled you out from everyone else?
Because he thought that he was sincerely my dad because my mom told him he was. Yeah, it was kind of tricky. Like
so then when you moved in with your dad and your grandma, like that's the first time you actually got to build a bond with your real dad.
My real dad will pop up on me. You know what I mean? Like when I was like a baby, my grandmother, like my mom's mom, like was like, okay, your dad, like his dad is this guy, and who's my dad now. So like, yeah, this is his son. So my dad gets out of jail, and she like, look at this baby. Doesn't he look like you? And then he's like, yeah, I think this is my son. So I guess my mom just wanted to spite him and be like, yeah, okay, this is your son. And then he got in trouble again. And then my mom would take me to see him in jail and all types of stuff. And then like out of nowhere, I guess she was upset and was just like, this ain't your son no more, which is wild. But like that's what she did. So it was what it was. So, he was always around when I was growing up. He would just pop up here and there and do what he can, like throw me a couple bucks. And then I would go over his house for Christmas and stuff with my grandmother and stuff. But I was just really confused, like, who's my dad? Like, but it was what it was. But my dad's my dad, you know what I mean? Like, even if he wasn't, because, I mean, to this day, my mom would, like, probably tell me that this other guy's my dad. But even if he wasn't, my dad took me in. You know what I mean? Like, that guy was nowhere to be found when CYS was like, hey, take this kid. So my dad took me in. And back on the subject of, like, how it started, I just basically went with my dad. And
you never did a tattoo at this time?
No, I was like 11. So I went with my dad, 10 or 11, something like that. Get taken away, moved my dad. I was still love to draw. At this point now, I'm a single child. You know what I mean? I went from 5 to single. So I just spent a lot of time on my own. There was really no other kids around besides my aunts, foster kids and adopted kids. But I spent a lot of time alone there, and I draw, like learning. And then we moved out from there to, it was short-lived, me living in my grandma's house, maybe like a year or two, maybe, I can't remember. But we moved out of that house, and we moved around the corner to the projects there. Moved to the projects, and then that's when I like start discovering like the streets and like everything going on down there. So I was like curious about that. So I'm like jumping around. All my cousins are like criminals and shit. So like I'm just like hanging out with them, doing what they do, all that stuff. So my dad just started getting real salty and upset. And
that you was going down that path.
Yeah, that was. I don't necessarily think it was that path. It was just that my dad just like me and him never seen eye to eye. Like he thought his way was like the way. So like I had to experience it. I think it was important to experience the streets. He tried to hide me from like everything that was going on there, but like you know what I mean, he went to jail for that before. He was like involved with that. So like he tried to hide me, but we moved to the heart of it. So I didn't want to be the dweeb. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to be the dweeb. Because I grew up in the streets with my mom. Like, we lived in projects and motel rooms or whatever. But, like, it's different when you're a kid. You're just, you know what I mean? It's just the environment doesn't influence you yet. So, like, as a 10 and 11-year-old, I'm like, all right, I'm in the streets now. So, I was in there. And then eventually me and my dad got into it real bad. And I ended up, like, getting kicked out, moved out. And at this time, like, young.
Where'd you end up moving to?
Basically, I bounced around from my godmom's to my Aunt Kylie's house to, like, crack house. You know what I mean? Like, my buddy, he had his mom was on drugs. I mean, like, not to air him out like that. Obviously, you don't know who he is. But, like, his mom was on drugs, and she was just like, oh, you want to, you know what I mean? You need someone to stay in his attic. You know what I mean? So I'm staying in the attic of my buddy's house, you know what I mean? And she was really nice regardless, you know what I mean? By the way, like, people would think, like, oh, she's a fiend, she'll take your money to steal. She never stole from me or anything. She let me stay there for free. It was wild. I mean, it was a circus.
How long you stay there?
Oh, it was on and off. I bounced everywhere, but, like, that's the longest place I stayed. I probably stayed there, I don't know, maybe like 3 years back and forth, but I stayed there for a minute. So then as I got older, I started losing. I lost my cousin, Trayvon. I lost my cousin Delonte. Like, it was just like I was losing family members and stuff like that.
And these are people you was close to, like, really
yeah.
close.
So I started realizing, like,
not like your cousin you see at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, like, they were really close.
Yeah.
Delonte was like my best friend, so and like a brother to me. Every day I would, like, walk down the street and go see him or whatever. But so basically I just wanted to, like, get away from that, and I met my cousin Rick. And he would do tattoo parties at the different houses in the projects. And I would see him tattoo. I'm like, wow, he's, like, using that art stuff. And I wasn't interested in tattoos. My dad always said, like, you get a tattoo and you're a criminal, they're going to be able to identify you faster. So I was like, oh, let me just not. I thought they were stupid. But, like, I just loved art still. So throughout all this street stuff and acting all crazy, like, I was still involved. I still really loved art. In school, I would spend a lot of time creating art and stuff like that. So basically, I was young. So probably young teen, maybe. I can't remember exact ages anymore. But, like, he took me in, and he's like, I started, like, asked him to teach me more drawing. And I would see him all the time, and then every time he come down, I would meet him, and, like, then he would start paying me to do drawings for him and stuff. And he had a little shop in a hair salon, Kyra's hair salon, shout out Kyra, one of the best people I ever met. For real. But yeah, because I'm a kid. Yeah. I'm a kid. I was, like, a little rowdy, you know what I mean, back and forth, like, doing all this stuff. She didn't know what I was about, but she rented out him a small room in her hair salon in the back room.
How old was he when he took you in and started mentoring you?
I don't know. He had to be like 20 something. I like maybe like in the 20s.
And you was like early teens.
Yeah, I was super early teens at that. But he just basically started showing me, like, about tattooing, and, like, then he started paying me to draw stuff, and I started seeing money from that. So I'm like, oh, this ain't that bad. So then I started realizing how much he was making off it, and I was realizing that people, like, naturally people don't appreciate art. If, like, no one, like, not too many people want to go to the museum and stare at a painting. Yeah. And I was interested in stuff like that. So I started seeing that people, like, even a thug, like the hardest dude you know, look at a tattoo of a money sign with flames on it. He's like, that's hard. You know what I mean? So seeing someone that don't usually appreciate art drew me towards it. And I started, like, basically drawing based off of tattooing. I would go to a shop and I would look at pictures on the wall. I'd draw a picture and then blah, blah, and I just watch him tattoo some of, like, my designs onto people, and it just was like, it, like, really, like, was gnarly. So I was like, hell yeah, like, I'm just gonna do this. So I did that. Then basically I just got a hold of some equipment and I just started tattooing. I would go to tattoo parties with him, draw pictures for people, and then I got tattoo equipment, and then I started basically just tattooing people. Yeah. But at the time, everyone's like, how'd you start? Like, your pig skin? Like, nah, I was in the project. So, like, dudes who got out of jail, they'd be like, they don't care. You know what I mean? They just get stabbed with some questionable needle in jail. They're like, all right, you're a kid, you can tattoo. I heard you can draw, so whatever. So I just started tattooing them. You know what I mean? It was okay, but, like, you know what I mean, they loved it. It was better than jail tats, so I just started doing that for a while.
So we talked about it earlier. the tattooing came from a need to survive.
Yeah.
Right. And not only like, yes, a need to survive like in a way to make money, but also a need to survive staying away from the other way you could have made money.
Oh, definitely.
So like there were two reasons that doing the tattooing was helping you survive.
Yeah.
One, making the money, and two, avoiding the other path that you could have went down. So
Definitely.
like that brought you all the way up to where you're at now through years and years and years of dedication, desire to be great, hard work, and everything. So when it stopped being because of survival, how did you transition out of that into being a successful businessman? Like, how did you take this and build it into what you have now when it was only to survive?
I like to touch on the fact too, like mainly when I'm saying survival, also one of the main things is like, if you go through hell like that as a kid, I think the survival from your own like post-traumatic stress is important. I think that's one of the main reasons why I did it, is because like if I had time to myself, I would think about like, why did my mom get rid of me? Or I'd be like, why does my dad not fuck with me? Or like, why did my cousin die? Yeah. Like I would have enough time to think about my situation I was in. Like art was an escape. It was like, it kept my brain so occupied I wouldn't question too much stuff. So I was just like, oh, I'm just doing art. Like I start looking at like I'll start thinking about the progression of art instead of thinking about like everything that could have torn me down. So like that.
And we talked about that. Like we had a big conversation about how the unfed mind devours itself, and people like us who have that uncontrollable curiosity. It's like, I know that if I didn't have a vision and a purpose of what I wanted in life, my mind would just go.
Sure.
So if I didn't give it something to consistently like look forward to, and to have a, like, people like us, we have to have a mission, something that we got to work for, or that like we have to accomplish, or else our mind will start going on to other things.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's one of the things that blows my mind, is how you were able to go through all of that, and in the because it's hard enough to just survive.
Yeah.
And not survive like the physical part of it, but survive the mental part of
Yeah.
it. Your thoughts and everything. And in the midst of having the PTSD, the anxiety, like confusion, insecure, like just not knowing anything, you built a successful business.
Yeah, definitely.
Parallel to all of that.
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I always explain this analogy to people, and I know we talked about it before, but it's just like I started off young, and I was like just hanging out, and then a dog came out of nowhere, and it's just growling, foaming out the mouth, and it's trying to bite me. And this is figuratively, obviously, but I'm running from this dog, and I'm like, shit, this dog's trying to kill me. Like, this dog's trying to kill me. It's not even it's trying to kill me. So I take off, and I'm running hard as I can. So my focus is now, get away from this dog or I'm gonna die. So like all I know how to do is run. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm running. And I run so long that like I don't even check behind me anymore. And I turn around, the dog isn't there, but I'm still running. So I look forward again, and I run through a ribbon, and everyone jumps around me like, congratulations. And I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, you won a race. And I'm like, what race? And they're like, you just ran a race. And I was like, no, I was just running from this dog. They're like, either way, you won a race and you ran at a record speed.
So if you had to, I know that's figuratively, but it's a perfect analogy to your life. So how old were you when you crossed through the ribbon?
That didn't happen till like right after my brother died. Because before I would just constantly still do it, because like most of my like early teens into the early 20s, like I made decent money, but like I wasn't far away from like being broke. Like I wasn't like comfortable yet. Like I wasn't to the point where I was like, all right, like I could probably take a year off or do whatever I wanted to do. Like at this time, I was still like, all right, I got to get to the point. I didn't have a car yet. I didn't really buy a car until I was like, what, 22, 23 or something like that.
Around my age.
Yeah, so like I walked everywhere to work. You know what I mean? I did everything I could to keep myself humble, but also like I was trying to like build a solid foundation, because if you build your house on like uneven foundation made of mud, that's just gonna sink and fall. So I was really focused on that,
building the foundation.
Yeah,
in your
so
life.
like that takes some time. So I started doing it to where like I was trying to build a brand or whatever, and then close to my brother died. That was 2018, I believe. So close to my brother died, I just started feeling like I was running in a circle, because at that point I started making money. I traveled, I started going to seminars, I started doing whatever I could to learn tattooing. So I was running in a circle for quite a while, and I was kind of like confused as to what was happening. I started feeling like really empty. I started really feeling real confused. I started realizing that I didn't have to run anymore. I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm good. You know what I mean? If I stop right now, like I'll still be good. If I just run at the pace I'm running at right now, everything will be good. But I knew deep down in my heart, like as an artist, like I still wanted to take it next level. And as someone who has like a addictive personality, I was like, all right, next step, next step, next step. But I just felt like I was comfortable. I was in a relationship at the time. I was like, all right, I got a good relationship. You know what I mean? Like I got a house. Like we were, you know what I mean? We were doing well. I had a car. You know what I mean? I was just about to buy a second car. I was just having a good time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I just stopped focusing. I think between like being in a rough relationship, really wasn't like the roughest, but like, you know what I mean, the relationship was like taking some of my attention, and just like working nonstop. I just never had time to think about myself, and I just kind of was like stuck.
So because of course, like for me, I remember I wrote a book on myself, to myself, because I needed to unpack a lot of like the trauma. I wanted to figure out, you know, how my whole life has affected me up to who I am today. Yeah. And when I think about like everything you're explaining, it's interesting to me as to how everything you've been through affects the way that you view relationships, having relationships now in your life. Not even like, having a girl or anything like that, but all of it together, relationships with friends, family, girl, all of that. Like, what is that like in your mind?
Nah,
like the everything you've been through, and then thinking about like, can you trust people now?
Oh, it's
you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's definitely hard. Yeah, I mean, you got to start with the earliest betrayal. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like, oh, you're just paranoid and stressed out. Like outside of art, like I'm very paranoid. Like I don't trust a lot of people. I have a very, very, very small circle. Mm-hmm. You can call it a dot if you want to. It's just very few people. I just, starting with the earliest betrayal, like my own mother, you know what I mean, betrayed me. Like I said, there's probably reasons to that. You know what I mean? She's probably hurting, whatever, but like you got to understand, like, when that's the closest person to you, or it should be, and for her to like let us go like that and just kind of like leave us hanging like that definitely like laid the foundation of my trust. So after that, and then like I've been through a few relationships where that went bad, and like living in the streets, everyone crossed everyone. So that's like you gotta so I just basically watch my back, keep to myself a lot. So I keep to myself, and like I don't really talk too much about stuff, and I try to not talk too much at all about anyone else or what else is going on. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people are like, oh, you're trying to. A lot of people think I'm like doing this mysterious front thing, like, oh, he's trying to like, you know what I mean, be low key and secretive for the aesthetic, and it's not. It's just like the less I appear, like the less I'm talked about, the less I'm into drama, the less people want to like try to attack me in like ways like trying to like, you know what I mean? Because people get like intimidated by success and like intimidated by like someone trying to empower themselves, because now you're putting responsibility on them to do that. It's just, it gets a little sketchy, because they're like, okay, cool, like everyone's on the same level. Now someone's like passing that level. Now it's a new standard. Mm-hmm. So now, and instead of seeing that, it's like, okay, like I'm gonna use his story as a power up. They're just like, I don't want to do that. I'm content where I'm at. So now I look like a bum, or I look like I'm less than him. So like I'm just gonna talk shit on him. Yeah. So it's definitely scary. I keep to myself a lot. luckily I have like a strong small circle, and I have my child. You know what I mean? When it comes to relationships, like my little cousins, my family. But when it comes to like unconditional love, I have enough of that for my kid. You know, my kid,
Right.
like the way my kid looks at me, and the way that like my kid cares about me, no matter what. I don't really like need it from anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I really just keep to myself when it comes to that, and I don't trust people, but I don't let that control my life. You know what I mean? Like I'll talk to people, like I'll be around people, but I don't let people in enough to where they can like, you know what I mean, destroy me from there.
I think we're good.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah. But so that actually makes me think. I was reading this book one day. It's called The Enchiridion by Epictetus, like an old Stoic philosopher. And because I was going through that same trouble, like PTSD with trust and everything like that. And the basis of the few pages that I read, it said being mistrustful is going to like stress you out a lot more in life rather than just exposing yourself to it over. Like it's better to just get betrayed time after time after time again than to be mistrustful and paranoid. And for me, for some of the things that I was going through at the time with like getting set up, robbed, like kidnapped, all that kind of crazy stuff, and I was living on the run trying to figure out like, you know, who I cut everyone out of my life, and I was by myself for like 2 years straight, not one person, and that was hard for me with that PTSD. And I had a big realization when I read that, like maybe you should just expose yourself. Like it's almost like I think they call it exposure therapy, right? Like to become less scared of danger, or to become more of a calm individual, expose yourself to danger.
Yeah.
And that really hit me, and that what you just said made me think about that. It's like I feel like being mistrustful, because we're very similar in that sense, where it's like if we hear something, we're looking out the window right now, or like if we go to a restaurant, we're sitting like in the back corner where we could see the whole restaurant and we know all the escapes and everything. Like that's a stressful life.
Yeah, definitely.
Feeling like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I definitely like I'm loose about it, especially as an adult now. Like I said, my strategy is just to don't make a giant circle. Like that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like I keep a small circle. I really do. I know I say that a lot, but like that's just how I handle my life. Like I'm not paranoid to the fact where I'm like, this person's going to betray me, but like I'll weigh that option. I will weigh that option. Yes. Like I said, we talked about this before.
Well, you can't not weigh that option.
Yeah.
Like in the way that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I was talking about that before. Like, I think the best way to explain how I maneuver is the grandfather of the Marines. He says, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet.
Yeah.
And that doesn't literally mean like murder everybody, you know what I mean? But like in a sense to where like enjoy your time, respect people, respect their time, you know what I mean? Be professional if you got to, you know what I mean? Whatever, but also have a plan of action if something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like and like if they decide to turn on you, you know what I mean, have an escape route, or just have a plan to like, you know what I mean, put them in their place if you have to.
That's super interesting because, and I don't want to bring up any names, but I have one mentor in my life, mainly one main mentor in my life. Mm-hmm. And when I look at all of the other individuals that I've been influenced by in my life, you know, like great philosophers or businessmen or something like that, right? Like, you know, the Trojan horses, right? Mm-hmm. Like all of these individuals, there's one area of life where you could sneak the Trojan horse in and take them down, right? It's like when I think about it, I want to become the individual that, from a spiritual standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a mind standpoint, from a body and health standpoint, you know, spirituality, like everything, physically, family, right? Strong family, strong loyalty and relationship, and like circle, like you talk about. Like I feel like the goal would be to be impenetrable through all of those areas.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And like you look at, you know, like Warren Buffett. So like with Warren Buffett, you know, I've always looked up to him from a financial aspect, from a business building aspect, from a character aspect, to be honest. Great man. But I look at his health, you know, like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to eat like that. I don't want to look like that. You know what I mean? And then for someone else, they may be healthy. Or like for example, like Jordan Peterson, one of my role models. He's a famous philosopher, or, you know, psychologist, whatever you would call him, author, any great thinker. But he done went nuts. Yeah. And went in a coma for 6 months because he couldn't get off a anxiety medication. They had to fly him around the country. Went nuts, absolutely crazy. So it's like, the person that I want to look up to is the one who has it taken care of in every aspect of life. That's the person I'm gonna listen to. Yeah. That's the person I'm gonna follow. You know what I mean? But that kind of leads me to the question that I wanted to ask you. Like, from your standpoint, you've lived this out. What is the relationship between war and life?
Well, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. Everyone likes to think, like, when people think of, like, when you think of, when I explain to people, like, how life is war, the first thing they say is, like, you're paranoid. Like, you think everyone's your enemies. Yeah. But, like, in any situation, there's you, and then there's some type of, opposition, or some type of, like, you know what I mean, like, hurdle in your way. And through war, the main part of war that I like to study and understand is, like, strategy. Mm. You know what I mean? When war first started, it's just some guys, you know what I mean, just barbarically attacking each other. Yeah. Then it went to like guerrilla warfare. Yeah, the line first in muskets and lines, you just get shot. You know what I mean? Then in guerrilla warfare, people are moving around, and so
sneaking
like
up.
It's just like your opponent in life will always get greater, whether it's a human or whether it's an obstacle. It's going to get greater. You got to learn to adapt and strategize and become, like, better than the threat. You know what I mean? And not saying that everything's a threat. It could be something minor. It could be something super major. It could be someone physically trying to attack you. Yeah. It could be something as simple as, like, fighting your way through school. You know what I mean? Like, that might be hard for you. That might be mentally stressful for you, but you got to create a strategy to make it less stressful, where you can maneuver it and complete the task without defeating yourself, honestly.
And then I feel like when you think about it that way, I think that indirectly brings along like a perspective where your view on everything widens. Because everything is super complex. Like you were telling me, when you look at it from, like, the artist's eye, everything, there's so much depth behind something. There's so much more than what meets the eye. And I feel like when we look at a battlefield, is ever changing. The world is in a constant state of flux. So it's like people always like judge a president, for example. Yeah. Like, could you imagine? Like, I actually think about this. Even if you don't like a president's decision, could you imagine how many things there are that you have no idea about what happened for them, with the thousands of advisors that they have, all of the different responsibilities? They got to please this person. This person's expecting them to make that decision. And then you have all these balances of power. And then everyone's just like, oh, look at this idiot made this decision. Yeah. The complexity behind it.
Yeah. It's definitely, like, a lot of people, that's what I'm saying. Some people don't look at life as war. They look at life and it's just, like, very two-dimensional for them, you know what I mean? But, like, that's how it is in war. Like, you got to make decisions and you got to make moves to where, like, when you talk about being a president, like, every decision you're going to make is going to hurt someone and it's going to help someone. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, every decision, so you got to make the best decision for the circumstances that you're in. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tricky, but.
So would you say the way you look at life as a blessing and a curse?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because if you get too involved with that mindset of, like, this is war, you'll get paranoid and, like, it's just too much. But, like, I'm right in the middle where I'm like, I think I'm cautious. You know what I mean? And I always have a plan in action, or, like, a plan, like, every situation that can go wrong. I mean, even something simple like, all right, I get in an elevator. We talked about this earlier. You get stuck in an elevator. When I'm in an elevator, I might not get stuck, but I might have a plan to get out if I did. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stress like, oh, I could get stuck. I just get on there and I'm like, if this were to happen, this is how even airplanes. I'm like, get on the airplane. I'm listening to the lady. She's put the thing down and then I simulate the idea of this could happen. Like a lot of people don't like to think that. They're like, I'll think about it when it comes, but that's not having a strategy for something. That's deadly sometimes, and I don't want to be that guy, you know. So
are you at the point where it's just subconscious? Like,
it's very conscious, but it's also subconscious as well. So like I think about it more than an actual person, like a normal person does, but I don't think about it too much to where it's like controlling my life to where I won't leave the house. You know what I mean? So like I just explore all the options, explore like, okay, this could happen, this could happen, this can happen, and these are my plans if it were to happen.
One thing that just through our relationship and us communicating that I've observed about you, and I actually spoke to a couple people about this idea today because it's something that I have not yet been able to achieve, but I feel like you have. It's like, you know, on one hand, you have people who are like, you know, they're like the hippies, and they're like, oh, you know, you die tomorrow, so we just have fun today.
Yeah.
Have fun every day. And, you know, it's like, I'm relaxed, I'm cool, it's whatever, I'm calm, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And then on the other hand, you have the people like, I'm super planned, I'm super organized, I'm super structured.
Yeah.
I got this vision, that's what it got to be, da-da-da-da. You know, it's like both of those extremes, I feel like, have a downside. But if you can mix the two, like if you could know and expect the worst, you know, you could die tomorrow, it could all be done, but also plan for the future and aggressively work towards it while knowing that, because a lot of people will be like, well, why would I work towards the future if I could die tomorrow?
Yeah.
Just have fun.
It's
But
true,
like,
yeah.
but I feel like you have the vision, the purpose, and you aggressively pursue it with a strong will, but you also have the calmness of someone who knows that it could all be taken away.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That took a long time to do, honestly. It really did, because I was, like, by definition, paranoid for a long time. I just thought that everyone was after me. You figure your mom turned on you, your dad since it turns on you, all your friends around you turn on you, like, and things just going south. You're like, all right, who's next? Like, who's going to do me dirty next? But like, it took a long time to learn a good balance. I'm not certain how I did it. It's just like things just start happening. And when people die, you learn how like temporary things are at the same time. But also,
we had that conversation. Did like the detachment from.
It just you feeling knowing that you could die, and then also like in most situations, like a lot of people that are very serious, they're like, oh yeah, like I have to blah blah. But you got to understand this too, like you're like, as much you want to think you're indestructible and like not human, and you can like, because if you work super super hard, you're just gonna stress yourself, and you'll run yourself into the ground. So you're trying to like jump obstacles and maneuver and like foresee obstacles, but like you will eventually become an obstacle to yourself. You know what I mean? So you're never looking at yourself for that. You're looking at like everything around you, and like if I'm going to go to college, these are the things I'm going to do, and blah blah blah, and these are things that could go wrong. But no one ever thinks like I could go wrong. So like I think I spent a lot of people disregard that, but like I spend a lot of time thinking that. Like as I get older, as I go from like a young boy to a man, like I start to realize like stress can kill you. Like you can work yourself up and have a heart attack. You can like do this and that. So like I try to keep a positive influence, a positive idea, and understand that I do need time to like wind down. Like you can't think aggressively every day. You'll go exhausted. You know what I mean? You gotta take some time, reboot, think about what you're doing, and that's the time where you make your strategy. You're making a plan, but you're also like learning to like relax in that, like, okay, like this is downtime. Like, you take a few days off and just think about it.
In the midst of all the chaos.
Yeah, so and then you jump back into chaos. You never forget the goal, but you also got to remember that, you know what I mean, you're not indestructible.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, a lot of people self-destruct, and I think that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
How did you like, most people in your position, they would have a massive ego.
Yeah.
How did you, because you do have a lot of humility, like as an individual, how do you do everything you do, make it? I mean, I understand a lot of it probably comes from like, you know what life could go back to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's being from like climbing a ladder. some people were born on the top of the ladder, so they can very easily have an ego because they just look down their whole life and go, "Oh,
but a lot of people could climb up the ladder, and because they made it, have the ego too, and you don't have that.
They could.
Did
but
you ever have that?
No, I've been consciously climbing this ladder. You know what I mean? There's some people that like rush through the ladder. You know what I mean? Like every point, every step I took upward, like I consciously knew what was going on, and I like consciously understood what the lesson from that step gave me. A lot of people just climb it and just don't care. They get to the top and they're like, now that I'm here, fuck you peasants. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not that guy. And I've always thought about this. Even like, you know what I mean? I have people around me, like someone to see someone and when we're out and about, and it's just like, just some random person see someone, they're like, or someone that's like around me, but not like my friends, because I'll check my friend really fast. But someone to say like, oh, you see that dude or that girl, she's ugly. And I'm like, the only difference between you and that girl or that guy is a car accident.
Right.
Like, your house catch on fire today and your face can be just as deformed or whatever it is. So just understand that just being in that situation before and being where I am now. Like everyone, so if someone come to me, like I would never treat them like they're lesser than me because they're just on a step that I once was on. So like I have to acknowledge that and I have to respect that. And whether they get off that step the same speed as me or if they take a little bit longer, like I never, who says that? Kendrick on the Schoolboy Q song, Bless, he says, I never, what does he say? I never neglect the process of a baby step. So like that's just how I am. I just let people live life at their own thing. So like, and through a lot of like Buddhist like reading and like a lot of like reading about compassion, it's just like being able to see you and other people and like being able to understand like where other people are.
That's interesting that you bring that up because I feel like a lot of religion, the different religions, they teach the same wisdom in a different way. Like through that is compassion. For me, like that makes me think. The other day I was looking at some numbers in my business, and compared to a lot of other numbers from other people's businesses, like they were pretty high.
Yeah.
And most people, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, good, good job, this, that, and the third." And I was scared a little bit. I was like, because. And I think it's through the compassion with the Eastern philosophy. And for me, it's like with the West or with the Eastern religion, for me, it's like the Western religion, when they talk about, the way I look at it is I just pin all my success on God.
Yeah.
And I know if I do that, I'm transferring responsibility from me to him.
Yeah.
So I can't be responsible for the success.
Yeah.
So if I step away from that humility and that fear of God, then I'll walk back into failure. And it's like when I was looking at those numbers and I seen that, I was like, I don't care about this. I mean, one, I could be doing way better.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the person that is doing bad right now, I'm one mess up in my business away from going right back to that point.
Yeah.
I'm one situation of this person leaving me or someone doing something disloyal or someone trying to take my business down from being right back at that point.
That's how
and it's never about how you, like, success is a bad teacher. It's like in the 33 strategies of war, it says erase the memory of the last war.
Definitely.
Because you'll get drunk off of success.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather, it's like, I look at life as we have a personal responsibility to deal with the transformations of life.
Yeah.
So we have good times and then we have horrible times. And each one is as important as the other. So
absolutely.
In good times, you want to collect all of the wisdom that you've gained of how to be happy and how to be successful. And then you want to sweat more while in the good times so you could bleed less while in the bad times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's super important. I think you do it naturally.
Yeah.
I
think like also like when we talked about this the other day, like we're still students. You know what I mean? Like you can't think that you're the master off rip. Like when things is happening, like I'm still a student. There's still a lot I need to learn. And I constantly surround myself with people that are better than me too.
Yes.
I think that's very important because I'm a student. Like I want to find teachers. I want to find people that's more knowledgeable. And I just try to learn off of that. And then it keeps you in a place where you're like, okay, like there's people better than me and there's more things that I can learn. also like looking at someone like Nipsey's like philosophy on things, like this is a marathon. So like when I think about being egotistical, I think about someone halfway through a marathon and he's in first place, so he stops to celebrate. I'm not a guy that stop and celebrate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in the end, maybe when I look up back, like, so every now and then I might be running and I look back like I'm in a good position, but like I'm not turning around taunting the other racers. Right. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going around like, yeah, look at me, I'm in front of all you guys, because that time that you're using taunting, they're gonna catch up to you, or you might get lapped. You know what I mean? So I'm not really worried about celebrating yet. I'm just like worrying about like actually finishing this race or like continuing running the race.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I feel like that's interesting. And one of the things that makes me think of is, you know, running a race, like you're competing with yourself, and a lot of people always talk about, you know, don't compare yourself to who someone else is today. Compare yourself to who you are yesterday. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I feel like artists having the mindset of an artist, which I want to ask you about after this. You very much have to be yourself while also seeking inspiration from others. Yeah. But I feel like, yes, seek inspiration from others, but never compete with them, because the second you start to compete with other people, I mean, like, think about it. If you're focused on me and I'm focused on me, I'm gonna win.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because then you're getting away from all of the greatest things about you.
100%.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that leads me to, like, that I wanted to ask you. I know a lot of people ask the question, how do you define art? And I know that's like a very weird question, but I want to get into that whole idea.
We talked about it before. Art is because
I want people to know, like you're not a tattoo artist.
Yeah, that's very. You know I get really salty about that. Honestly, yeah. That's why, like, outside of tattooing, I won't even tell people I tattoo, because like it's very limiting. Like, people are like, "Oh, you're a tattoo artist," and then they think of some guy that's like doing like walking tats all day and like just you know what I mean, have like this like shop. Yeah, I mean, they just like they almost, some people treat tattooing like an office job, you know what I mean? So like they sit there and they're in their cubicle and then they take whatever comes in and then they do whatever, and a lot of these shop owners are like pump out money. Mm-hmm. So that's all they do. And it's just like when people hear I'm a tattoo artist, they're like, "Oh, you're a guy that's supposed to cater to me." And I'm like, "No." Like, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're a guy that just makes quick money." And I'm like, "No, it's like way more than that." And I think some artists are taking the steps to like move it away from that, and it's this is art on skin. This is not anymore like sailors tattooing anchors on each other. You know what I mean? Which, much respect to them, because that's just what it was. You know what I mean? It's just part of it. You know what I mean? They were tough dudes and they were just like, this is what we doing. Yeah. But like nowadays it's there's a lot of like art. You know what I mean? And to me, what art is like manipulating a medium into in order to express your perspective. So your medium could be anything. It could be paint, it could be tattooing, it could be interior design, and it can be business. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. It could be numbers, it can be wherever it is, because I feel like any innovative person is an artist. Like, if you have a new idea, whether it's if you're a scientist with a new idea, you had to think outside the box to create that idea. So he had a perspective and he had an opinion, and he used like the numbers and the calculations to create something to show other people what it was. So
what you're saying is anything that is an expression of one's perspective or emotion, like that would be considered art. Yeah, that's in some way, shape, or form. To me,
yeah, because everyone's different. Like, but to me, that's what it is. So just like you just have to use something to and may I add, sincerely. Because some people, you know what I mean?
And authentically.
Yeah, I go online and like I said, we talked about earlier, the influencer culture. Like, people get online and they just do whatever. And it's not to shit on them, but like some people like go online, they're like, I'm an artist, and they just kind of like splatter paint on something. And it's not really in a true expression. It's just like, I want people to see this, or I want people to like this. You know what I mean? As opposed to like someone going online and like actually painting something and like, this is how I feel. Yes. Because like everyone views life differently. You know what I mean? The way that you look at this room and the way I look at this room is completely different. It's not even about art. It's just like, it's your perspective based off of your feelings and everything that you accumulate over time. Like, that's just how you look at it. So I can't see through your eyes. Yeah. But if you create something, I can. I can like come close to understanding like how you're viewing things.
Felt.
You know what I mean? So like that's what
crazy.
it is to me.
I feel like you gotta really go through. Like I'll meet people and I'll know that they haven't had to tap in to that survival instinct of life, because when you do, you look at everything with so much more humility and empathy.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying, this room, it's not about it looking different because we have a different perspective. It's like I could have been in your house, like I could have been in your crib, your apartment during one of the worst times of my life.
Yeah.
And no one could have known about it. Mm-hmm. So my feeling in that time, everything could have been dark and gloomy.
100%.
It's like, but you could have been just the best time of your life.
Yeah, my child's mom. We were talking about this earlier. She comes in and she likes it, and like my apartment, I'm really into like minimalistic things. Like I like everything to be square, circle,
white, black,
very little. I don't really think about color a lot. I like color's just not my thing, so I wear all black. Everything's black or white. Everything I own is black or white. It's just very peaceful for me. But when she came in, she's like, this is very depressing. Like not even off any experience. She just, to her, like colorfulness and everything, that's what creates a good memory to her. Like, but like for me, like even something simple as like modern contemporary decor, like when I see stuff like that, it puts me in a better place, because like I grew up and I'm living in like rundown, half beaten up apartments. So when I see something that's not the newest, it like makes me feel uncomfortable. It brings me back into the past. Or maybe a color, I mean, a certain color might disturb me or whatever. So your perspective and mine is definitely different. It's based off experience, just based off of life. You know what I mean? Like there might be a scent in this room that like throw you off. So like I said, it's just all you're doing is offering, okay, this is how I see things. I made this painting. This is how I believe that life is like. This is how I felt. I know it's a language almost. I didn't touch on that, but it's just a language. It's like, hey, you don't speak the same language to me, but like this is how I feel, and this is my interpretation of this emotion or whatever, this idea.
So I see a lot of artists, they'll talk about they get to a point where, because of course it's just human nature to you have to make money and survive and build it. Like essentially most artists, their goal is to build a successful business around it.
Yeah.
And I feel like every artist, when I listen to them talk, whether it's a fashion designer, a painter, an architect, whatever it may be, they get to a point where like they get burnt out, or they get like they get into that time where they're not getting that much inspiration. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like how do artists manage that? How do you deal with those time periods without getting like have you ever experienced that yourself?
It's tricky. Have I ever thought about finances and like living life? Yeah, just about being a normal person and feeling normal emotions. Yeah, that everyone feels that. I think the most important part of managing that is most true artists, what I would consider true artists, because it's, like I said, it's subjective. They don't really care about finances. They don't care about anything. All they care about is they have so much stuff in their brain and they need to interpret it into like normal people, like understanding. So like you got all this crazy stuff moving around in your brain and you're like, all right, here's a painting, and now the painting, like this is how I feel inside. You know what I mean? There's not enough emotions on the board like to like portray how you truly feel. So like an artist is like, okay, this is how I feel. This is a painting. Or like this is how, take a photo, like this is how I see this specific situation and stuff like that. So the focus is constantly on like translating who you are and your perspective. And then beside, like after a while, finances will come, but like I never really stress about it. I tell like there's a lot of people come out of school and they're like, I'm going into art field, but I might be a starving artist for a while. I think that's like a weird way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you're going to starve, but like the point isn't to make $1 million. If you jump into art to make $1 million, you're probably going to fail. A lot of
artists.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just like a lot of like the artists that are like big name, big money artists, they're just very sincere about their artwork. You know what I mean? Like they just
focused on their
yeah,
artwork
they
and
don't
nothing
really
else.
care. And then when like I don't like when artists like works auction off for $3 million, you never really, they're not really jump around hill click. You know what I mean, not that I know of. You know what I mean, they're just kind of like, great, more money so I can create more stuff. You know what I mean? That's how it is. I mean, and we talked earlier about Elon Musk being an artist. He technically is.
Yeah.
Elon Musk don't really care about money. You can look him in the face. He's not driving a Lamborghini space yacht. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't care because he has a perspective and he's trying to get out there. He wants people to see what he thinks and he wants people to see the world that he believes in. You know what I mean? So like, it's just, that's how artists are. They're like, give me, like, money almost becomes a medium at one point. So money becomes a medium to where it enables you to create. That's all it is. You know what I mean? It really doesn't matter. So like, if you go into it thinking like, I need to eat and I need to like have a nice house and I need, like, you're probably in it for the wrong reason. But I mean, yeah, it sucks and you're going to have to like, you're going to have to starve. You're going to have to be a starving artist, but you shouldn't focus on that. I remember doing tattoos. I would do like 20 tattoos in one session. So like I do 20 tattoos, one session. And then like, I would just be like stressed up to my neck, you know what I mean? Like, but I do these tattoos like $20 a piece when I first started, like $10. Didn't matter to me. But like at the end of the day, I didn't say like, oh, I made $200 or I made this much. At the end of the day, I was like, okay, like these are things that went wrong. These are things that went well. Like these are things I need to improve on. Yeah. So I was like really fall in love with the process of like perfecting the craft more than I was like making money. And then eventually the money came and it's just like, it was what it was. Like eventually you have to get what you're worth. But you're never worth what you're worth until you're sincere and you're like working hard at something. Yeah,
that makes sense. And I think one of the biggest things that you brought up Elon Musk that made me think of this. One of the biggest things that I've learned through you, like if I had to choose one thing, it's that you don't have to be painting or drawing. Or like what society looks at as a regular artist to be an artist. It's more so the mindset of it.
Absolutely.
And what I've learned through you is, and just through thinking, is there could be the dude who is an accountant, who technically is an artist in the way that he thinks, 100%. and at that accounting firm, the way that he could boost efficiency or productivity in business terms, right, is through his creative mind. Definitely. And the strategies that he's offering through the company. But here's what I learned. This is the point that I'm trying to make. It's important to identify that you have the artist mind. Yeah. Because if not, you may wonder why, sometimes I think I'm a little crazy or obsessed, or I'm having these deep thoughts, and I think at the most fundamental level, and why other people in this accounting firm aren't like me. Like, you could be an artist and you're in these weird places in life where you're not technically the artist that art class told you or that college told you. And I think it's super important for human beings all over the world in any profession to identify themselves like, maybe I do have that mindset. And I think that would help them a lot with like self-awareness and mastery over their self.
Yeah, definitely. I a lot of people like, even like kids, you know what I mean? Like they think something's wrong. You know what I mean? Nowadays it's so quick to diagnose something as something. But in all actuality, like, you just might be a creative individual. Yeah. It's a scary place to be. So, like, you never know. Like, if people are like, oh, I'm different. Like, oh, I think different. So, like, I'm not right because they want you to fit in this form. But, like, in all actuality, it is what it is. You know what I mean? You have that thought process. Your brain breaks things down. You think, you overthink. Maybe the way that you're taking something in isn't the same as other people. You hear people speak about something, you're like, that's not how I interpret that. Yeah. Like, so, like, it just is what it is. But some people just choose to, like diagnose that as a problem and just like get rid of it and start thinking structurally and then kill that artist in them. And some people just go with it and just be sad. Because like, if you're gonna be an artist, you get just a little bit of sadness.
Because I mean, look at what you did. So I wanted to end this. I know we've been going pretty deep with it for like an hour and a half or something like that. I wanted to end this with just asking you like where you're at now, you know, where you plan on taking things, how you plan on, like, because I know you have a big vision and everything like that. You know, like, what do you see in the future?
In the future, I think I'm going to, as of right now, my plans are to tattoos as little as possible for the future. I'm going to start taking on bigger projects, and like right now I'm still doing everything, but I'm gonna start fixing my schedule to where I can take on bigger projects and like
In regards to what?
and like I'm gonna look for like sleeves and like big pieces that like I feel like I want in my portfolio. So I get thinking more stuff to like really prove my talents. But I want to do that as little as possible. What I really want to do is like focus on becoming more of a creative and like exploring art in every like sense. So I want to like get involved in like maybe furniture making. I want to start painting again. I want to start just doing things that's like really like art related. You know what I mean? That's what makes me feel the most free and the most like purposeful.
Okay.
So I just don't want to be limited to be a tattoo anymore. I want to take it off and brand it. I want to brand my name in a different way and just start really just making art, whether it's in fashion or whether it's in, like I said, like interior design or something. I just want to explore and like see what I really like, because tattooing has become like really businessy for me, and it's starting to like kill me inside. So like I don't want it to be like my main source of income anymore. So we'll see. And basically, as far as like life wise, I'm just looking to create like a strong foundation for my kid to grow up on. Mm-hmm. I want to help her. I want to live by. I'm gonna start doing things. It's always been purposeful, but like even more purposeful. So like my daughter can look at that and say like, that's how I want to go about life. You know what I mean? Not like follow my path exactly, but understand that you should do what you love, and really like don't worry too far about finances. Don't worry too far about all this other things. Don't worry about blending in. Just be you, and just like, you know what I mean? Like just
lead by example.
Yeah. And I want her to just experiment and just, you know what I mean? Like live her own life and understand like what she really wants out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not really like I said, I don't want her to follow my footsteps and do what she thinks will impress me. I just want her to do what she wants to do. And if I sit and I do what I have to do, she'll learn to do what she have to do instead of doing what she wants to.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
So if you had to give, like, to end it, if you had to give some advice to, one, you know, people in your situation, like your past situation, going through crazy hard adversity like that, and then also young artists as well.
Yeah.
What would you say? As
far as like someone that was in a similar situation for me, or like came from an environment to where many people don't succeed, what I would say to that is focus on one step at a time. So like make an overall goal and don't think it's impossible. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Make an overall goal, and although the environment might dictate otherwise, like really the only thing that can dictate your outcome is like your mindset. So just work on like thinking positively and just like make a goal, and regardless if people say it's possible or not, just work towards it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like I said, never neglect the progress of a baby step. Just keep pushing through it. Like even if it's one thing a year, even if you don't get any closer in a whole year and you just learned a few things that might help you get closer next year, mm-hmm. just keep it pushing and focus. Yeah, just really focus on your mental state. You know what I mean? Like if you feel like it's getting hard and getting confusing, you got to understand that you're picking your hard. You know what I mean? Like you could be sitting around doing nothing. That's hard too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Your
Especially
stomach growling is hard too. But like, I mean, going through this, and I tell people all the time, if you're going to chase these dreams and you want to get out of this, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. It's not easy. Yeah. It's not for everybody. It's not easy. But if you think it is for you, work hard towards it and understand when you are stressed out that it's meant to be. Yeah. Like you're supposed to be stressed out. It's not supposed to feel comfortable. If it was, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. So as far as a young artist goes, focus on showing the world what you think, showing the world your perspective through your art. Use it as a language. Don't really worry about, because nowadays with influencers, people just want what gets the most likes. They want to create something that everyone's going to like online. I don't make a tattoo because I think everyone's going to like it on the internet. I make a tattoo because that's how I feel like it should look. You know what I mean? That's and it makes me happy. So I think people should stop focusing so much on social media. If I was a young artist, I would take like huge like social media breaks. Like I would just like, you know what I mean, stay away from that. Find influence in the environment, find influence in your friends in your circle, just find influence in traveling and stuff like that. But don't let the internet dictate what is art and what is not. Like it's a language. You dictate what it means, and you dictate how people are going to see it and portray it. So just spend some time just really like in your own head, in your own space. Don't ever take the internet too serious, and just really do what you believe in and what you want. Don't do what everyone thinks is cool, because you'll run your business right into the ground. Or you might become successful and you'll feel empty inside because you don't feel purposeful. You have the money now, but like people are just looking at your stuff like, oh, that's cool. And whatever the internet thinks is cool, or whatever people around you think is cool, could be a phase. But as an artist, if you think it's something cool and you're like being sincere about your artwork, when you grow, your art grows. But when it's a trend, it's just a trend for the time. You know what I mean? Like this trend might be tracing out your hand, and then after a while, that's just not. Now you acquire no skills. You know how to trace out a hand.
Right.
But if you do that sincerely and you're doing what you really want to do, I feel like people will like it or won't like it. But the people who will like it will constantly support you, and you will find a way financially out of it, or you might not.
Yeah.
But it's not about the finances. If you a true artist and you die and you're not a millionaire, at least you put out your perspective, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think you could attest to this. Like, you're gonna have to pay now or pay later, and the price only gets more expensive. Like I always tell young people, it's like Black Friday every day for you right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I got it 75% off right now.
Yeah.
I don't got no responsibility. I don't got no girl. I don't got no kid. I don't got nothing to provide for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Except for myself. So like, and you could attest to it because you got a daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point, if you don't hustle now, you're going to have to hustle when you got 3 little ones at home, the wife, and if you would have just sacrificed now, so you don't have to sacrifice as much later, I feel like that's a big thing. You know, it's like pay as much as you possibly can now, because what's the price right now for everyone?
Yeah.
The bar,
Yep,
you know,
that's it.
chilling, kicking it, playing PlayStation, whatever. That's not a price to pay.
Uh-huh.
A price to pay is not being able to see your daughter as much as you want to, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And like the last thing I would say is we live it by example. We're obsessed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to not be an artist and you were to be like, I don't know, some other profession, like you wanted to be some other entrepreneur where you had to do like numbers or something like that in business, you would probably be just as successful in terms of, you know, material success as you are now.
Yeah.
Because you're just an obsessed individual, a crazy, insane, obsessed individual.
That's what you have to be.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's good. I appreciate you, big dog. And, you know, maybe we'll have to do a round 2 soon.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.